Hello, everyone. So, quick disclaimer, I've been asked a lot to speak slowly. So, if I speak too fast at some point, do first this. If I don't listen, do this. I will make sure all this place look like a dance floor. Okay? So, yeah, a little bit game workflows and how I use Blender. So I will tell a little bit because from past few years, I'm using Blender and Unreal mostly for everything from prop to environment to structure. Usually the workflow goes, we make props or model things in there and we take it to Unreal. And we have different texturing suits and other tools to help us with the workflows. But I'm sure you were here in Mikhaila's talk in the morning. She covered up a lot of stuff, so which is good. So we can talk about more focused stuff regarding environment art and how we can use. So I use this opportunity to test Blender to a little bit more limits than how can I use more in there on more. So basically, I'm gonna discuss how I use Blender and what possibilities Blender have in game art. So can we even do and can we not? Because I could not test all the workflows, but I will share while we are on the slide that if I'm confident about doing it or not, right? And slowly we can go. And for that, there is at the bottom there is a link where you can find this presentation. There is a lot of stuff in here, so we might quickly go through it. So just grab it from there, and you can follow along, or later on also you can watch. There is a lot of stuff. Trust me. So you need to grab that link. So, so yeah, so that's basically we gonna cover. So, a little bit about myself. I'm working in 3D industry from more than 10 years, and I'm working in games for more than 8 years. Worked on so many AAA titles and companies, and Mafia, GTA 6, which people know. So that I worked on, and now I work with companies and with Blender Kit, which I really thank them for supporting me for being here. And first phase, we're going to talk about some basics. Okay. Again, Mikhaila covered a lot of stuff in her talk, so we quickly go through it. So if there is something specific I feel like we need to talk about, we will do it. Otherwise, we will take questions in the end also. So first of all, these are screenshots, whichever I'm talking from, I have mentioned in there. If I miss something, so if someone watch it and they can send me, I will tag them as well. So if some image don't have name in there. So first, real time, right? So everything happens in a game is real time. Whatever you see in the screen is actually what it is will be rendered, right? That's why I came to games, because I hated renders, because you just press render and wait for 1 hour and then you see you made a mistake. I hated it. That's why I came to real time. But I didn't know that we have to optimize a lot of stuff. It's not just model we have to optimize. We have to optimize materials, textures, shaders, lighting, even rigging and animation, all the things, even the code. Everything need to be optimized, need to run as per the hardware. So that's why it's behind the scene. It do not count in there, but we surely have to think about before even starting how we can optimize it as much as possible. And then we talk about, and the second thing, because I have most of the experience with modeling and texturing, we will not be talking about rigging and animation, and I don't have much experience about that. So we'll keep it till the modeling and texturing of part. Little bit rendering, but because I don't do that also, because it's a real time, and we do rendering in Unreal. So mostly modeling and texturing and unwrapping part we will talk about. And this nanite thing, everybody say why we need to optimize when we have nanites. We can use millions of polygons in Unreal. Well, that's not true. I worked on 4 games with Unreal Engine 5 and nanite. We have to optimize nanites also. So game art is all about optimization, how much, how better or optimized model or meshes or assets you can make, and how well it run in the game. Otherwise, a small asset can break the whole game and make it, crash or lag, which is not good for the games. Let's talk about a little bit basic fundamental. Every asset goes in the same workflow, even if it's environment asset or is a small prop. So this is an asset I made a long time back in Blender. So texturing is done in Substance Painter, but from sculpting, low poly, high poly, everything done in Blender. So you see, the first we have a concept art, then we have block out, then we sculpt it up, and I use alphas and everything, so it's fully in there. And then there is a big mesh at the bottom, and then render. I render it inside Blender. So other than texturing, everything is done in Blender. Right? So then a little bit of different type of modeling, right? I'm sure you all guys know, so we'll just quickly go through it. So we have subdivision modeling where we use supporting loops and subdivision surface modifier to get it. There is non-destructive where we use booleans and modifiers, so our base mesh remains, and we can get the previous mesh already. And then there is mesh which we manually model. For example, Suzanne is a good model for that. And then basically high poly, how we basically we do subdivision modeling, we do non-destructive. Basically, subdivision is when you have supporting loops. You remove the supporting loop, you already have a low poly, a good enough low poly. And same for the non-destructive, if you remove the bevels and subdivision, you get the low poly again. And for the scanned assets, you have decimation, right? So you have modifier, you can simply decimate the mesh to get the low poly. And again, Mikhaila already talked about this. So there are a basic thing about UV padding. We'll talk about it a little bit, why we need UV padding in optimization stuff. And then we have smoothing groups, again, hard edge, weighted normals, and how it can affect. You can watch later on and see what happens at what resolution and why it happened, why it's important to keep the mesh normals and big normals right so it look good in the game. Otherwise, you would put so much work in the high poly, and if it don't bake good, you will get ugly result, and which will not work for us, right? So it's really important to do these steps. And then that's the same example why hard edge and smooth mesh. Your normal map will compensate for the smoothing groups. It will look all right, but when the light will go around the asset, it will look ugly, right? So in the previous example, you see that scope of the gun. It is shown clearly at the last image here. Yeah, you see some shading issue. So that type of thing happen. And you might ask, like, we can add more polygons, right? UE5 is not used in every studio. There are so many studios which use old pipelines still. So we cannot just ignore the old pipelines yet. This is from Wardocs, basically all the different bake maps. Again, we use. We don't have to do it. We have tools like Substance Painter, Designer, even Blender have add-ons which automatically bake all these maps, which we use to drive detail in our asset. Right? For curvature, from AO, from position to normal map, and everything is to drive different details in different parts. This is another example for PBR. So what is PBR? PBR is physical-based rendering. You're like, I'm glad you guys noticed. Right? So, yeah, so we just need a few maps, and physical PBR changed everything because the same texture works in any lighting scenario. Before, we had to tweak as per the lighting when we had specular map workflows before old school. But this changed everything. We just make one set of textures which will work in every lighting scenario, and it was a game changer. And we have EV in Blender. That's why I'm talking about that's PBR rendering, PBR renderer, basically. So EV, right? So this is rendered in EV, right? So it's good? I would say, yeah. I was working in a studio. There, when they said, if it's look good in EV, it will look good in the games. So it was trusted that much. They literally said, like, just put it in Blender, put all the textures. If it's looking good there, no doubt it will look good in the game engine also. So Eevee is good, but I don't use it much to render, again, because Unreal. We use that to render everything. But I'm trying to. I'm trying to change that. I will use Blender more to test out the pipeline. I have an example. Next. Okay, so let's start jumping and start talking about some practical things from what I have learned and what I experienced. So if we just take the bare bone Blender, it is good for block out, high poly, low poly, it's okay. But when it comes to unwrapping, baking, and texturing, you cannot go without add-ons. The bare bone Blender or vanilla Blender is not good enough for that. But surely some free add-ons can help you achieve that as well. And it's not that complicated. And then rendering, again, for sure it can, but I don't use it much, so maybe, right? And some, basically, we use modeling workflows, simply mesh modeling, but we have splines which can help us, and again, modify. This is the example on my online class, which I run on my YouTube channel. Every week I do online class. So this I made last week, basically. So there's the wireframe is not visible, but when you download it, you can see it in the image. There's a really low poly mesh, and it just use displacement and decimate, and you get decent looking asset for the scene. It's not finished, but decent asset very quickly you can get. And I can make any changes in there. I can make 4 pillars, and it will update restore things there. So you quickly get 2 variations, right? And similarly, I have given some demo in here, and surely we have geometry nodes in here, and which can help us achieve more result rather than just not hand modeling, but more result in the quickly. And I use it every day. Geometry nodes. It's not like to this extent, because this type of stuff we do in Unreal, but for the asset and making variation of the assets or making procedural asset, for sure, right? Now, some more optimization, talking about this thing. Basically, you see here, like we, join the vertices. That's basically like when you have larger curves or larger surfaces, we give them more. The smaller the asset, we give less polygons. That's how we simply optimize. And this is for the texel density, which is, again, really important to keep the texture and detail unified throughout the scene. Right? So you see there are like different size checker maps, which will, some will look blur, some will look sharp. That is not good. So we want everything to look at the same detail. Texel density really helps with that. Okay. So then there is LOD's, level of details, which is like as the further thing goes, the lower polygon it gets. Again, it helps us save memory and reduce load on the hardware. And you see we have overlapping. So whichever part is duplicate is there, we can overlap the UVs. Again, it saves us some space in UVs and texture size. Okay, we can have a smaller texture size because of that. Right? And that's when I talked about the previous one, the edge padding. There's a thing called in texture called mipping. Mipping is similar to geometry. As further the object is, its texture start getting lower resolution. So if its 2 faces are too close in the UV map, if they have different color, one color will start to look on the other face. It look ugly, and the scope is the one example where you see the tail just start going over each other. So when you have very contrasty color or detail in there, it will look ugly when it will mip. So that's why we add padding in the UVs. So this is the asset I made like 2 days ago. So I wanted to test Blender everything. So this is like model, high poly, low poly, unwrap, textured, baked, rendered in Blender, everything. So to test, I was actually happy with the output. So this is too much because I don't speak anything here. I have a proof that it works, basically. Just to test that, I made this asset. This was actually my very first asset I made in Blender 2.8 in 2018, I believe. So this is first time, that time I just knew modeling. So I just went ahead with that. So It's actually one high poly, one low poly. How many people thought the previous render is the same asset? Awesome. Awesome. So it was successful, the experiment. So basically on the left, it is high poly, and here it is low poly. You can look at the presentation how I optimize the things, and if anyone needs this asset, I can send the Blender file also to look at how I did everything. And you see the high poly subdivision, and this crazy amount of I did not care because it's high poly. It's not going anywhere. We just need it for the details. And low poly matters. It's like 2,500 tries, not quads, tries. And these are the map baked. There is a I always forget the name. It's really complicated. I will share later on the add-on that I used to bake. It's free add-on, and it simply gave me all these maps. So I gave it high poly, low poly, and it just gave me all the maps inside the Blender. Right? So I made all the textures and everything properly on high poly. Like everything, like all the roughness detail, or if I need a color variation, everything is there, and it just baked really well. Right? There was few hiccups because of the same hard edge and normals, but those again, we have to fix those. So these are the map with alpha, and there's AO, and there's metallic map, and the color. And these UVs are not optimized. I just didn't care. I was like, okay, just experiment. Okay. And yeah, so now that's like just the prop, basically. So prop is possible. I have shown you two, one knife, one speaker. So props are possible, right? So let's talk about like the larger level stuff. What about environment workflows in there? So what workflows we have, what type of things we can do? We can make modular stuff. Again, it's just modeling. You can do it, right? And for texturing, we can make it procedurally and then bake it on a plane and use it as stylable texture. So we can make different ones. We can make brick. Like for example, you can go to this link on top. There is a whole tutorial for or whole breakdown of the asset. So these guys are awesome. So I have them sitting on my bookmarks, so I share. So this is basically vertex blending, where we take multiple tileable textures and blend them using noises and vertex color. Totally possible in Blender because mesh and vertex. Modeler, again, modeling and texturing, again possible. This is called trim texture, where we have horizontally tiling textures, and then we use them on different type of surfaces. Here, they used on house. We'll see an example next with the trim. So basically, trim sheets are also used. So basically, we are not creating small thing. We are creating large surfaces. And we cannot give it a unique texture. So we have to rely on tileable textures. And if you put tileable texture on large surface, it will start to look repetitive. And how we reduce the repetition is basically using vertex blending or blending the noises together so it don't look that repetitive from the distance. And some more in there, more than just modeling. Again, proceduralism, I'm a big fan of proceduralism. There is Miro, just entered here. So if you have any doubt regarding geometry nodes, just drag him to the corner and ask anything about geometry node. So yeah, so I love this thing. You see, now if we have made modular stuff and we get something like this asset, it makes artists' life easy. Then we just need to make modular things, and we sure like this will work because this tool is there. Then we can make multiple set or different type of set, and we achieve more, right? And yeah, so this castle is an example. Like, so these modular pieces and tileable textures are driving this, and we can have n number of variations of this. Yeah. And yeah, so this is basically, I didn't have time to put images, but I would say like it's self-explanatory. And FBX is still used a lot in there. GLTF for Godot, but I haven't used personally. I used GLTF for web platforms, but not for Godot. And someone actually asked me, like, what about USD? I think I'm not sure. Like, nobody ever used. I haven't used any USD anywhere. Only one instance where they were sending the whole scene into Unreal using USD, and it was abomination. So basically, nothing was good. Like, the whole scene was a mess inside the folder structure, and it is not good. So having a proper folder structure is better than having the whole scene there. And then live link. Basically, we worked on two different studios. They don't even export FBX or GLTF. It's basically live link. Basically, Unreal is linked to Blender. Unreal also, Epic Games have made this add-on sent to Unreal. And you can just simply click a button without exporting FBX, just directly send the model to Unreal. So we are skipping the FBX alert also to some point. Like, we don't need this middle asset. So it should directly should go to their Unreal and back and forth. You can bring from there to Blender also. So there are so many live links there. And then the custom script. These studios had the custom scripts, and also Epic have provided one, but you can also make one. But we surely need more people to make these tools and make it publicly available. So more people and studios adapt to Blender. Because I believe this is the only thing which is stopping studios from adapting it, these custom scripts to export assets in a way they require for the game engine. Because every studio use different folder structure, different naming convention, and different data type in there. So yeah, that is my observation in there. And then for the ideal, what I'm also trying to build for our studio is basically we have asset collections, right? So not as like I wanted to edit that, but so not asset collection in inside the not asset browser, but basically collection in the outliner to drive the folder structure of the actual asset location. So when it will match with Unreal, it will be easy to live link and share or iterate, basically, which is really important. When we work on game or environment or any asset, iteration is really important, where you can quickly test and send asset in the game. If you have an issue, you send it. But if you have 3 different tools inside this pipeline, it's gonna prolong your time. Like you export your prop from one software to other, then texture it, then bring it back to Blender, then send it to FBX, and then import it there. One small change gonna cost you a lot of time. That's why just using lesser. That's why I made that prop inside Blender. So I don't use that many softwares and tools, and we can just directly send to Unreal without any FBX or any middle format. Okay. So that is really required in there. Then this asset. This was an art test I gave long time back, actually. And the funny thing is, I got rejected because the lead said it is a really complicated asset. So it's like, why did you use this pipeline? So, but it is normal because this asset is like 2 meter, more than 2 meter height, and you cannot use unique texture. It is not possible because once you understand texel density, and when you have 1K texture map size, you cannot achieve it. It's not possible. Mathematically, it's not possible. So I relied on trim. And, so it's not just this asset. We can achieve more assets with this. These are tileable textures, like you can have anything. I have made, for example, wait. Yeah.
Better do.
So, same textures, different asset. So those planks, again, I used modifiers to quickly achieve the seat, right? And the metals are mapped on, sorry, that's too fast now. So if you look at this is the metal bar in here. And there is a rope inside, and there is tile and everything. All the different type of details are there. And I mapped metal on metal, wood on wood. And it has quickly you get asset. And the next railing stone wall with the metal bars. Basically same asset. I wanted to make more assets with the same textures, but didn't have time to make the exercise. But literally you can make so many props with the same texture. Imagine like you want swing with the rope and plank, or this bench on top of plank to swing. It's totally possible. So again, I have that in my head, but the lead did not. So it's like it's really complicated. But in my head, you can achieve more, which we really want in environment. We want to reuse the resources to achieve more, which will make the load on memory and hardware light, so we can have a smooth running game. So, and lastly, the tools. Basically, there will be a huge list of tools. So we'll quickly go through before everybody start reading. So you can grab the thing. Basically, all the tools I used, not the paid ones, but the free one. Here, if you use some tool which is not here, you send a DM, and we will make a Notion page or separate page for this thing, because I'm going to expand this presentation a lot, right? So I can send you, right? So don't worry, this will be available, no, so you can grab it later on also. Okay, so although we want to achieve everything in Blender, we use some tools which are like paid on there, and there's some of the free version in there. So for example, SpeedTree. SpeedTree I'm using from a long time, and every studio I worked on was, we were using it, but then they said no, you cannot use it because license issue, and then we started moving to Blender's geometry nodes, Plant Factory, Grove, and all the different tools. So slowly, maybe this destiny want me to use Blender more to achieve. So we are working on this type of side of things where we don't use, custom designer and painter I love, but as soon as Adobe got it, and I'm starting to hate it basically. But they're still really industry standard. ZBrush, Blender cannot compete with ZBrush, but still it can achieve a lot of things in that. So I will quickly go through these things, which I feel I will tell you if it's possible. Foliage, surely it's possible. If you grab this thing, there is a tutorial for this screenshot which I got from YouTube. This one tutorial will help you understand the whole vegetation pipeline, so you go through it. We don't have enough time to go over every workflow, but this one is good, right? But what about trees? Trees is still skeptical. We have Grove, we have geometry nodes, but I still don't have that level of tools or nodes which can help me achieve speed tree level of work. Right? But still, there are a lot of tools which I'm testing. I don't have results yet, but surely, soon when we have some result made out of those tools, I will surely share. Rocks. It's really interesting because Sculpt, this is everything is not done in Blender. This is everything is outside. That's in ZBrush, then Painter, then Unreal. I'm sure we can get the masks. These are the masks to drive the detail, and we have tileable textures. I'm sure we can get this level of detail with alphas and brushes. I'm sure in ZBrush also they use brushes, but I'm really keen to do this in my live class on my YouTube, so do join that sometime. So I will try out this workflow, and then I can concretely tell you if it's possible or not. For now, I would say still is skeptical on sculpting side, but rest of the things I believe we can create masks, and rendering is done inside Unreal, so we don't have to worry. But there are shaders in Blender which can help you get triplanar. Triplanar, basically, you have moss on top and tileable texture on overall surface. So we can get that inside Blender as well. And then this is what I was, when I was doing my online classes, I ran into this because I needed to make terrain, and I used World Machine, Gaia, and all the other tools. But I wanted to see if Blender can do it. From the look of it, yes. But exporting it to Unreal caused a lot of problems, which it did. Right? But I'm sure it can. It can create height field, which is the terrain. And then we can scatter using geometry node for sure. We have a really good tools for that also. And then dynamics is really important, which I found out recently, that you can get this erosion basically when the rain or wind or anything happen, it erode the terrain. So you can get that type of thing. It's free. So there is a link on the top. This is paid and this is free. So there are link on the top, so you can go ahead and go crazy about and test it out if you want to use it. And then One thing I really suggest is learn Blender and Python in there. So they have a really good API. And again, Myro is here somewhere. Grab him if you have doubt regarding coding. I'm not really good at, but I know basics. I can create macros. So if I need to achieve, I will show you what I made next time, but I can make macros in there. Like imagine you need to do this step, this step, this step. Blender tells you what code it is running on the back end. You take all that, put it into a new script and run it, and you can do it in single click. So like you save your time into like do 20 clicks you're doing, you can do it in 1 click. So that type of thing you can do easily and really help and fast forward your workflow. So I really recommend learn at least basic of Python and use AI. I used GitHub Copilot recently. Man, it's awesome. I just told it to like, this is what I need in add-on. It created the whole folder, and it was working. And there was some bugs which I could fix because I knew what code is doing behind the scene, right? And this is what I saw already on my GitHub. It's not much, but you see, these two I made recently because one of my students was saying like, okay, we need to remove alternate rings, right? And we need to unsubdivide. So we put decimate, and then we do unsubdivide. We do 2 levels, and then we apply it. These are 4 steps. So these just do the same thing. You select the mesh, you click the button, you do the same thing, and you have 1 level less subdivision in there. I wish I had the GIF and everything, but I will add it to my GitHub, record the GIF and put it there so you can check it. And the unloop also do the same thing. So you imagine you want to remove alternate loops. So you select the rings, you check a deselect, select the loop, and dissolve edge loops. 4 steps, single button. Okay, so again, I'm lazy. I don't want to do these 4 steps every time if I want to reduce. And the next I want to add is unbevel. Right? So I'm still figuring out. So I need to clean this up. And there are like so many tools which I cannot share because I use them for the company. So I extracted the safer version. So you see like there is a import zip model here. That was also like some company for online e-commerce. So they have model in zip. So you can simply select the zip. It have texture in certain format, model in GLTF. So you select the zip, it extract everything and set up the principal shader and everything properly. And when you want to export, you can export the zip also. So yeah, so that type of thing will help you. And this realized instances is the long back because I was really dumb at geometry nodes. But I had one problem. I wrote 2-line script and it solved the problem. And hundreds of people downloaded it. I don't know why. If it's possible in geometry node easily, but it's certainly solving something. So many people grabbed it, and yeah, so a lot of stuff. So that's what I'm doing. I just keep playing with it, delving with it, with the programming. So I strongly recommend making your own tool and sharing with the community because that's gonna make us much better. So again, Linktree is there. There is a presentation available, and I give mentorship for the game art, and the link is here. You can reach out, and I have my YouTube channel link there as well. And in the end, I really want to thank you, BlenderKit, for this opportunity. I met wonderful people at Polygon because of them. So thank you for the team and the BlenderKit team.
Thank you.
I hope I did not speak too fast.
Okay, I think we have time for like half a question. No, we'll do like 3 questions at least. So, okay. Thank you polygonically.
So you had the different uses for ambient occlusion, metalness, and the roughness textures. And you also had them combined into a singular texture. Which one would you recommend to use for like faster rendering or easier game processing?
Yeah, good question, because again, this is same comes to the optimization part. When you have 3 maps, because each texture have 3 channels, red, green, blue, right? When you use 3 textures for different ones, other channels gonna have the same detail. If you have AO, RGB, the 3 channel gonna have the same detail. Okay, and all the 3 texture we have to load into memory, and then it's gonna cost us extra load on the memory and the hardware, right? So what we do, we take these 3 different details for any detail, right? Some people use height, some people don't use AO, some people use height map, some people use grunge mask, stuff like that. So we pack it into red, green, and blue channel. So it's often called packed textures. So like we use ARM, where is AO, roughness, metalness, and we use MRA, metalness, roughness, and ambient occlusion, because that's the sequence in Unreal Shader it is. First metalness comes, then roughness, then AO. So it just noodles go correctly in the form, it just not going across. So packed texture is more welcome to use because it saves and optimizes.
But wouldn't it slow down processing? Like, no?
No, because you are using 3 textures, right? For
Yes.
3-1. Now you're using 1 texture. So it costs less in that. And sometime we did is we use half resolution with the packed texture. So all these details and everything, we use half resolution than diffuse and normal, because it does not matter that much. We just need some details, and it defines that. Imagine metalness. Metalness, we use just black and white to many cases. Why we need 4K texture for that? Even 1K will be fine for that, right? So like that. So we use, rather than using 3 different textures, which we have to load to the memory, you export 3 different textures you see. Like if you use PNG, that's gonna be like 10 MB per texture, 30 MB into your memory. But when you have 1 texture, it's 10 MB. You save 20 MBs there, right? Or maybe when you pack them, it will be 15 MB. You will still save 15 MB in there. But when it will be 1,000 times in the scene, it's gonna cost a lot. With that, then even if you save KBs, it's a lot in the game.
Thank you.
Yeah, what is it?
Tak další otázka.
Pozor.
Hej, to mělo své vlastní zvukové efekty.
Hello. I have a question regarding the ambient occlusion because I am using Substance Painter. I'm now doing the texturing in Blender. And the thing is that I really like the way how you use the striped textures. The thing is that, like, the last time I was working on some kind of architectural set of castles, and I was reusing the textures. But when I imported this set as FBX into Substance Painter, the Substance Painter generated the ambient occlusion, and I couldn't use it because I was using it on a different parts. And when I, for example, get some, like some window or something like that, then I got a black rectangle in there. So what do you recommend, like, for ambient occlusion specifically? Like, do you use, for example, extra ambient occlusion texture, which is like more high res and has different UVs, or?
Yep, got it. So first, like I wanted to say, like, this is the tool I use. This is the tool to bake the maps. And I will take you to this one. Go read this article, okay? There's a link on the top. So basically, how you do it is, there are 2 ways. Either you can use vertex detail to fake that AO in there. You can bake AO basically on the vertex, basically, of the mesh. Second is you can use masks. So what we do, we usually create another UV set where we pack it into 0 to 1 space. We bake the AO and the details and the roughness you see here, if it's visible here. So basically all the details you will see, this is here, but all the contact details or edge detail is come through a separate small mask, basically, which will have all these details. I believe it was visible on the rock. If it was, if I just quickly show you. It was, okay, sorry. Here, you see this?
Yeah.
This is basically the packed detail mask. So you see there is a green channel. It have that cavity in there. So this can be really low resolution also, even 256. And then you take another grunge mask or anything, you blend it inside the Unreal to get that fidelity in there. So that's basically we use to get the details. So you either use the vertex AO, like in foliage we use one channel in the vertex, because again, vertex also have 4 channels, RGBA. You can use all these 3 for different purposes. Maybe we need wind in the leaf, or maybe you need different color on some things, right? Maybe flowers you need to have different color. You want to change. You can use that channels to drive that. Or you can use a small scale texture with these details in there. So that's how you get in the whole thing. You pack into second UV or you use vertex. I hope it answers.
Okay, thank you very much.
OK, poslední otázka teda.
Hi, I just wanted to ask you about one software as an alternative to Substance Painter. Have you ever worked with Mari?
No. Most of the studios I worked with till now, I never used Mari. Mari, I believe, is mostly in cinematics or movies or VFX. They use, because I believe it, some of my friends who worked in VFX, they use Mari, and I heard it hold UDIMs really better, but I never worked with UDIMs at all, because we either use stylable texture or unique textures, right? And even character artists might use, but I never worked with the characters, so don't know. But mostly, I would say 100% of the time I use Substance Painter in studios. Anyone? Okay, then thank you very much.